guys, and welcome to a new episode of A Dog's Soul. I'm Anita, I'm your host and a professional dog trainer, and today we're gonna talk about how to deal with a fearful or frightened dog. So stay tuned and have fun. Okay, so this is a very sensitive topic. Most of the time, if a dog isn't very scared or scared very often, people sometimes don't realize that their dog has a problem. So what happens is the dog gets a little uncomfortable or a little scared or a little frightened, and before somebody can notice it, the situation's over again. And whenever we see a dog who is frightened or fearful all the time, then people get it. But that's a situation where it's really a very, very hard life for the dog. Because when you're scared all the time, first your nervous system is in overdrive all the time. And you cannot really settle down. You cannot really feel safe. Everything's just too much. And this is really not a nice feeling. So whenever you notice in your dog that he's fearful most of the time or a lot of times or again and again in certain situations, then there is definitely the necessity to do something about it. It's very important. And what we hear a lot of times is that we should ignore that, because if we give attention or any kind of affection or something like that to the dog, that we reinforce or reward that state of mind, and that we increase the fear with our affection or of us being nice. But the thing is, that's not possible. You cannot increase fear with something nice. That's not possible. For that to work, the dog would voluntarily choose to feel fearful. That's not happening. Who would choose to feel fearful? No one. Not a dog, not a person, not a sheep, not anybody. That's just... So, whenever your dog is fearful, he needs your support. And you can be the advocate of your dog. So whenever you realize that some situations are just too much for your dog, you can do certain things to make your dog feel better. It depends a lot on your dog and whatever he likes and whatever he's comfortable with. But you can try out a little bit, and you can just try different approaches and see what happens. See if your dog is responsive to one or the other, and then go from there. So let's just talk a little bit about how you can see if your dog's frightened. Our dogs give us very, very tiny little signals, and those are very easy to overlook if they're on their own. So if your dog is only showing one or two, it's a little difficult to see them. If your dog's showing a full fear display, you will recognize it, because everything in the dog is back and crouched and small and away from whatever's scary. But there are some little things that you should watch out. And it always depends on where you are and where your dog is. So which part of your dog are you seeing right now? If your dog's next to you and you can see the face, then you should watch out for, especially for the eyes and for the ears. If your dog's eyes grow bigger and more round and you can see the white, then your dog shows you a very obvious sign of fear. And also if the ears go back kind of down, so you see less of them, it's also a very clear sign of fear. Of course, if your dog's in front of you and you just kind of stare at the back end of him, you have to deal with body language and you cannot see the face. Then you should watch out for bent joints, especially in the hind legs, crouched body language, and a weight shift from the middle to the back of your dog. Also, of course, a tucked tail and stuff like that, or shaking or something like that would also be a very clear display. But this is always very individual depending on your dog and how your dog looks when he's not scared. So what that means is some dogs have just a very specific body posture that looks a little like fear all the time. And then, of course, it's no show of fear if your dog's normal then. So always consider what's normal for your dog and then look out for changes. And roughly you can say everything that's away from something is likely a sign of some kind of fear reaction. And of course, fear can turn into aggression, and then you would see more of a weight shift to the trigger, not away from it. But that doesn't mean that your dog isn't scared. Alright, so if you see some signs of your dog being unsure or scared or frightened, then you can start helping him and reassuring him in the situation. And the easiest way to do that is using a marker signal or a clicker and increase distance. Depending on how intense the fear is, you can ask for a behavior first, or you can just click and increase distance. What's important with that is that your dog doesn't have to do anything after the click or the marker word. It's just telling your dog, this was right, you get a reward. And also the reward doesn't have to be food. Of course, if your dog's very scared, he will not be able to eat. So this will not be a reinforcer or a reward. But what's always a reward for a fearful dog is if you increase the distance to whatever's scaring him. And the reason why I use a marker word, even if the dog's not showing any nice behavior and is just kind of fleeing, I want to remind him of a positive feeling. I want to remind him of joy and happiness. And that's what a marker signal does because of classic conditioning. And that way I just make it a little bit better. And of course, this would be a situation where I need management because I got in a situation my dog cannot handle. And this shouldn't happen on a regular basis. So this is just a management technique. If you know your dog is scared in some situations, you should just try to change the situations to something your dog can handle. And this could mean increasing the distance quite a bit. It could also mean dampening any sounds. So maybe your dog's scared of a toaster. That's actually not that rare. And you could try putting the toaster in another room, very far away from your dog, so the sound isn't that loud. Something like that. So try to create a situation where the trigger of your dog's fear response is present, but not triggering the fear response. And that usually happens when the trigger is presented in a very, very smooth and very, very quiet way. So let's take, for example, if your dog is scared of other dogs and you see a dog just appearing on the horizon and you know your dog can handle another dog in a distance of, let's say, 50 meters, then you can start there. So your dog sees the other dog, but he's not scared yet. And as long as your dog is not scared, you can work with him. As soon as he gets scared, it's done. And what we hear very often is, yeah, he has to stay in the situation because that way he will learn that nothing's happening to him. That's actually not true. because something is already happening. He is already scared, and it doesn't matter if we think it's not difficult and there is no reason to be scared. There is a reason for your dog, otherwise you wouldn't be scared. And sometimes maybe your dog doesn't even know the reason. Sometimes we're just scared and we don't really know why, because our rational mind doesn't really get that. And that's okay. It doesn't matter. What matters is that your dog is showing you he cannot deal with this situation. And of course, you as a responsible owner will want to help your dog. And that means changing the situation to work with your dog in a way where he feels comfortable and safe, and you are the source of good things and safety and relaxation and stuff like that. So that's always the thing with any kind of fear or reactivity or even aggression. Try to change the situation so that on one hand you're able to handle it because you're able to work with your dog, and on the other hand, of course, your dog is able to cope with it. And he can learn strategies to be comfortable and relaxed in the situation. And only then you can make the trigger more present or more intense or something like that. So yeah, if you need help doing that and assessing a situation or trying to find some kind of management technique, I'll be happy to help you with that. Just write me an email or go to my website and make an appointment and we can just talk about it. And I'm sure we can find some kind of way to make your dog more comfortable and get him to a point where he can just work with you and doesn't have to be scared that much. All right. So that's it for today. And I would love to hear, of course, what are your thoughts on this topic, or if you want any other topic discussed in the show, just let me know. I'll be happy to hear from you. And until then, have a nice training with your dog and try to have fun a lot, because training really has to be fun for both sides. And of course, that makes fear again less likely. So have fun. And until next time, bye.